Let's have a look at how a transmission rebuild actually begins. Um, this transmission has a date code of C like Charlie 1, which means it was cast. The casting was produced in March of 1941. So I removed the top and I removed the side kicker cover just to have access. And this is initially how I will look at a transmission before I take anything apart. So the first thing we're going to do is spin the transmission over, make sure everything is free, which this one it is, and then I'll actually shift it through all four gears. That was first, there's second, third, and fourth. Everything spins very nice. The customer requested to replace the main shaft. The clutch hub side of the main shaft is kind of distorted a bit, so he wanted the main shaft replaced and go through the transmission. Upon initial inspection, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Countershaft second gear, I noticed has a pretty good amount of movement. It shouldn't really be moving around that much at all. So that's interesting. The countershaft end play seems about right, but we're going to check that with the feeler gauge to make sure everything is all right. And the other gear that we're going to check is this gear right here. Hard to see. Right there, that's main shaft third gear. Now that gear should really have no play at all, and you can see it up here as I move it from below. It has a considerable again, we're looking right here at the top of this gear. It has considerable movement on the main shaft. And it really should have zero movement. So I'm assuming that both of those gears that have movement in excess of what it should be, we're going to discover that in the bushings within the gear. Looking at the kicker side of the transmission, the kicker gear stop plate is missing. So we're going to install a new bumper or stop plate for the kicker gear. And everything else here looks pretty good. Countershaft lock tab is bent over. Main shaft lock tab is bent over. All the studs are in place. Everything looks pretty good there. On the other side, when we look at the clutch hub side, I'll do a video on removing the main shaft seal with the proper tool. But everything looks fine on this side. The main drive gear threads look pretty good. Countershaft end cap, all the screws are there. And then lastly, taking a look at the bottom of the transmission. The one thing that's always interesting when you pull the drain plug out is what is it going to look like? What are the threads going to look like? And in this case, the drain plug came out very nice. The threads are good in the case. So this is a drain plug that will not need any repair at all. We'll look at the 5th mounting hole, make sure those threads are good. And then we'll look at all 4 of the studs to make sure they're in good shape as far as the threads go and how they're seated into the transmission case itself. So we're off to a good start with this particular transmission. Everything seems to be in pretty good order. And I will be posting, like I said, a video of pulling the main drive gear seal out of the case using the proper tool and reinstalling it with the proper tool after we put a new main shaft in. So I'm going to try to do more of these videos, concentrating initially just on transmissions. There's a lot of steps involved, and I'm going to try to break them down to increments. So this one is just initial inspection before any teardown begins. I'll do another video on disassembling the counter shaft. I'll do a separate video on disassembling the main shaft. I don't want to make these too long. I'm going to try to keep them about 5 minutes in length so I don't lose anybody's interest. So this is my first video with a new video camera I'm trying. So I'll continue on, and hopefully each one will get a little bit better. All right, thanks for watching.